The television world of the 1960s and 1970s was bold, wild, and unpredictable. Legendary shows rose fast and fell even faster often for reasons stranger than fiction. Today we explore classics that vanished, not because viewers let them go, but because fate executives' lawsuits or pure chaos stepped in. Here are 18 classic TV shows canceled for the weirdest reasons. Dark Shadows, 1966. Dark Shadows was a thunderbolt in daytime television, bringing supernatural horror into living rooms, at a time when daytime audiences expected polite drama and safe talk. The series delivered brooding mansions, eerie cliffhangers, and the unforgettable presence of Barnabas Collins. Fans formed powerful communities, and the show became a cult force long before the term existed. Yet the series met a fate stranger than any curse it portrayed. ABC repeatedly shifted its time slot without warning. Viewers rushed home at one time only to discover the show had moved earlier or later that week. Loyal fans could not track it, and new viewers never found consistency. Ratings fell not due to lack of passion, but because the network treated the schedule like a moving target. Executives blamed the audience instead of the erratic broadcast strategy. In the end, Dark Shadows was canceled quietly and quickly, even though its cultural footprint continued to expand for decades. A groundbreaking Gothic experiment ended simply because the network kept changing the clock, leaving one of television's boldest shows lost in its own shifting shadows. The Banana Splits, 1968. The Banana Splits brought chaos music and surreal comedy to children who wanted their television loud, colorful, and unpredictable. The giant mascot suits the psychedelic sets, and the fast-paced sketches made the show feel like a carnival bursting into the living room. Kids sang the theme song everywhere, and merchandise spread across toy aisles. Yet the show's downfall came from a sudden industry shift that nobody foresaw. Networks decided that live-action costume character shows were too expensive and too old-fashioned as animation became cheaper and more marketable. Advertisers grew nervous, believing kids had moved on, even though fan response remained strong. NBC calculated that renewing the series would cost more than investing in fresh animated programming. Without warning, the network ended the show, leaving viewers stunned. The Banana Splits did not fade from popularity. It was abandoned because the industry changed direction overnight. A beloved and wildly imaginative series fell victim to a trend rather than any lack of audience enthusiasm. H.R. Pufnstuf, 1969. H.R. Pufnstuf exploded onto television with puppetry magic and dreamlike landscapes that felt ripped from a child's imagination. Every episode created new creatures and new worlds, guided by a heroic boy and his dragon friend. Yet behind its cheerful exterior, the show walked straight into a corporate battlefield. McDonald's launched a massive lawsuit, claiming the creators had copied the look and style of their fast food mascots. The legal war drained money and energy from the production. Sponsors hesitated, unsure whether supporting the show would create negative publicity. Networks feared the courtroom drama more than the financial cost. Even with strong ratings, the threat of ongoing legal attacks made the show impossible to sustain. Ultimately, H.R. Pufnstuf ended not because children lost interest, but because a whimsical fantasy adventure was pulled into a real-world legal nightmare. It became one of television's strangest casualties, proving that creativity sometimes loses to corporate power. Bonanza, 1959 to 1973. Bonanza stood as one of television's great American sagas, with sweeping frontier landscapes and deep family bonds at its core. For years, audiences followed the Cartwright family through triumph, sorrow, and unforgettable adventure. Then tragedy struck. Dan Blocker, who played the warm-hearted Hoss Cartwright, died unexpectedly. The cast was devastated, and the chemistry that anchored the series collapsed. NBC considered rebuilding the show, but every script felt diminished. Viewers sensed the absence immediately. Rather than attempt a reinvention, the network decided that Bonanza could not exist without Hoss. It was one of the rare cancellations driven by genuine grief. A legendary Western ended not because audiences disappeared or executives panicked, but because the emotional heart of the show could not be replaced. Bonanza stands as a reminder that sometimes the loss of a single performer can bring down an entire television empire. Julia, 1968. Julia changed American television by placing a confident modern African-American woman at the center of a primetime series. Diane Carroll played a widowed nurse navigating work and family life, offering representation that had been missing from mainstream TV. Viewers embraced its optimism, its warmth, and its pioneering perspective. Yet the show's downfall emerged from a cultural shift it could not control. As national tensions escalated in the late 1960s, NBC grew uneasy about the program's gentle, hopeful tone. Executives feared critics who said the show presented racial harmony that did not reflect the volatile environment outside. Rather than allow Julia to evolve with the times, NBC grew nervous and questioned the show's relevance. Advertisers hesitated, unsure how the public would interpret a series projecting positivity during a politically charged era. Even with respectable ratings, the network decided not to renew it. Julia was not canceled due to failure. It was removed because television grew afraid of its own ability to inspire hope at a time when society seemed to be moving in the opposite direction. Brady Bunch, 1969. The Brady Bunch represented cheerful family unity, bright optimism, and clean-hearted storytelling. It created characters who became cultural icons, and households felt bonded to their adventures. Yet behind this wholesome exterior chaos was building. When producers attempted to expand the franchise, they launched a variety show experiment involving the Brady family singing, dancing, and performing sketches. The result was so poorly received that it shook network confidence in the entire brand. Executives feared that viewers now associated the Brady name with awkward musical misfires. At the same time, the original series began facing aging cast challenges as the children grew older and the premise felt harder to maintain. Rather than find new directions or refresh the format, the network reacted to the variety show disaster by canceling the main series. The Brady Bunch did not fall because audiences abandoned it. It fell because one misguided spin-off poisoned the well and made executives fear the future of a franchise that once felt unstoppable. Star Trek, 1966. Star Trek arrived with grand ambition and a vision of a united future where humanity explored the galaxy with courage and curiosity. Yet when it premiered, the network had little understanding of the devoted fan culture it would spark. Executives disliked the show's cerebral themes and political allegories, and they shoved it into punishing time slots that limited its reach. Fans fought hard launching one of the earliest letter-writing campaigns in television history. Still, the network ignored them. Ratings suffered because the broadcast schedule changed unpredictably, and episodes aired at hours when many viewers could not watch. Executives dismissed the fan community as too small and too nerdy to matter. After 3 turbulent seasons, Star Trek was canceled. Ironically, syndication later proved that the audience was far larger than the network ever realized. Star Trek became one of the greatest science fiction successes in history, and its cancellation remains a legendary example of networks misunderstanding the power of passionate fans. The Beverly Hillbillies, 1962. The Beverly Hillbillies was a powerhouse sitcom delivering huge laughs and even bigger ratings. America adored the Clampett family with their simple country wisdom clashing humorously against the glamour of Beverly Hills. It stood as one of the highest-rated shows of its time, yet it was canceled for a reason almost impossible to believe. CBS launched what became known as the Rural Purge, a sweeping campaign to remove all rural-themed programs from its lineup. Executives wanted a modern urban image, and they believed advertisers preferred shows that appealed to younger city-based audiences. Even though the Beverly Hillbillies remained highly successful, it was terminated along with other rural favorites. The decision shocked viewers who felt the show still had years of life left. The cancellation was not about ratings or cost. It was a corporate rebranding strategy that erased one of television's biggest hits simply because executives wanted a new look. The Addams Family, 1964. The Addams Family introduced television viewers to macabre humor, gothic elegance, and a delightfully eerie household that celebrated the strange. Gomez Morticia. Wednesday and the entire Addams clan became instant icons, bringing dark whimsy to a medium dominated by bright, cheerful sitcoms. Yet despite strong public affection, the series faced an unusual obstacle. It aired at the same time as The Munsters, another monster-themed sitcom. Advertisers grew confused, unsure which show matched their target audience. Networks feared that the two similar programs competing head-to-head would dilute profits and limit the growth of both franchises. Ratings remained decent, but executives believed that only one monster comedy could survive in the long term. Ultimately, the Addams Family fell victim to industry logic rather than creative decline. Even though viewers loved the characters, the show was sacrificed because the television landscape was not prepared for two competing spooky comedies. It stands as one of the few cancellations driven by advertisers' uncertainty rather than audience rejection. The Monkees, 1966. The Monkees arrived as a whirlwind of music, youthful rebellion, and madcap humor. Designed to emulate the energy of rock bands of the era, the show followed four musicians through chaotic adventures while delivering catchy songs that climbed the charts. What began as a playful television experiment quickly evolved into a cultural phenomenon. Yet trouble grew behind the scenes. The band discovered that the studio controlled nearly every creative element, from song selection to performance style. They played the roles of musicians, but were not allowed full artistic freedom. When the Monkees pushed back, insisting on writing and performing their own music, tensions soared. The show relied on the manufactured band concept and could not adapt to the group's new direction. Executives feared losing control and refused to restructure the format. Ratings dipped slightly as the tone shifted, and the harmony between band and studio collapsed. The show ended because its stars outgrew the premise. The Monkees wanted authenticity, while the network wanted predictability. Their clash ended a groundbreaking blend of comedy and music. Gilligan's Island, 1964. Gilligan's Island became a fixture of American pop culture, with its castaways stranded in endless comedic misadventure. The Skipper, the Professor, the Howells. Ginger, Mary Ann, and Gilligan himself formed a timeless ensemble that entertained millions. Ratings stayed strong, and syndication later proved the show's enormous staying power. Yet its cancellation was driven by one of the strangest executive decisions in television history. CBS canceled the show not because it struggled, but because the network president's wife reportedly disliked losing Gunsmoke from her preferred time period. To restore her favorite Western, CBS rearranged the entire schedule, and Gilligan's Island was sacrificed to make room. Producers were blindsided. The cast expected renewal, and scripts for another season were already being considered. Instead, they learned that a personal preference from the network leadership outweighed ratings, viewer loyalty, and long-term potential. Gilligan's Island became a legendary example of how unpredictable television leadership can be and how a powerful opinion can sink a thriving show. Batman, 1966. Batman exploded onto screens with bright colors, dynamic action, and a campy style that defined a generation. Adam West and Burt Ward became instant icons through a series that mixed superhero thrills with tongue-in-cheek humor. The show dominated merchandising and created a cultural phenomenon. Yet production costs soared as each season required larger sets, bigger stunts, and more elaborate visual flair. ABC requested a significant budget increase to keep the momentum going, but executives hesitated. When the network refused to commit additional funding, NBC stepped forward, offering to revive and continue the series. However, by the time negotiations began, the iconic Batcave set had already been dismantled to save storage costs. Rebuilding it would have required enormous expense. With the heart of the show's visual identity gone, the revival collapsed before it began. Batman was canceled not due to lack of popularity, but because a destroyed set halted its potential rebirth. A single practical decision ended a cultural powerhouse. My Mother the Car, 1965. My Mother the Car earned instant notoriety for its bizarre premise. A man discovers that his deceased mother's spirit lives inside a vintage automobile that speaks only to him. The series attempted to blend heartfelt family moments with whimsical fantasy, but critics attacked it swiftly and relentlessly. Viewers struggled to embrace the tone, and the network's confidence cracked. Still, the strangest part of its cancellation was not the backlash alone, but the almost mythic reputation the show gained as one of the worst programs ever created. This cultural label grew so rapidly that advertisers questioned whether associating with the show would harm their reputation. Cast members found themselves defending the concept everywhere they went. NBC realized that the negative perception had become too overwhelming to reverse. Even though the show still had niche fans, the network feared long-term brand damage. My Mother the Car became a rare example of a series canceled because it turned into a national punchline. Its failure was amplified by public disbelief and media mockery, leaving the show remembered more for its unusual premise than its genuine attempts at heartwarming storytelling. The Green Hornet, 1966. The Green Hornet entered television with sleek-style heroic action and a duo dynamic that felt fresh and electric. Van Williams portrayed the masked vigilante, while Bruce Lee stole scenes as Kato, delivering lightning-fast martial arts unlike anything Western audiences had seen. As Lee's popularity soared, he became the true star of the show. Fans tuned in specifically to watch his groundbreaking fight sequences. While this boosted viewership, it created tension behind the scenes. Executives feared that the show was drifting too far from its intended lead and worried that Lee overshadowed the title character. Some believed audiences misunderstood the balance of power within the narrative. Instead of embracing this shift, ABC panicked. At the same time, the network struggled to compete against rival time slots and faced pressure to cut shows that did not dominate ratings. Even though The Green Hornet had strong cult momentum, ABC canceled it after one season. Its downfall emerged from insecurity over Bruce Lee's rising fame and uncertainty about how to market a show where the sidekick had become the cultural phenomenon. The series ended just as its potential skyrocketed, leaving fans with a legend cut short by executive hesitation. Television history is filled with surprises, and these cancellations prove that success alone never guarantees survival. Creative battles, shifting trends, and unpredictable decisions shape the fate of every show on this list. Their stories remind us that behind every classic series lies a fragile world of risk, ambition, and sudden endings. Television history is filled with surprises, and these cancellations prove that success alone never guarantees survival. Creative battles, shifting trends, and unpredictable decisions shape the fate of every show on this list. Their stories remind us that behind every classic series lies a fragile world of risk, ambition, and sudden endings.